how much time you might need when you're getting started in a new career or a new business. Both of those, I'm kind of going back and forth between the two because not everybody wants to start a business, but some people might be shifting from one career to the next. Even that step, and maybe they're going to work for someone and then eventually start their business, but it has the same type of mindset shift that you need in order to take on this new chapter of your life. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 195 of Design Curious Podcast. Today on the podcast, we are going to be addressing some of those real-life questions that you might be asking before you get started in your passion career of interior design. And you might be thinking about switching over, taking the leap, but you have a couple questions. And it's not just, am I talented enough? Everybody has imposter syndrome. We've talked about that a couple episodes ago. But there are other questions that come up for sure. And some of those are like, can I do interior design? Can I start my business while I'm working another job? Can I raise my kids while I start building my interior design business? How much time do I really need to get started on my new career? And how flexible is it for my daily life? Like, how can I work this in, still have an income maybe from my other job, still run my household and all the things? How realistic is it for me to actually switch a new career? So we're going to be talking about that today. Really, the bottom line is that you don't need a perfect season of life to start. There's never a great time to start something new. It's like when you decide when to have kids, it's really never going to be the ideal time. So just do it. But you do need honesty. You need structure. You need a plan if you're going to take this leap for starting your business in interior design or starting a new career. So we will get into that in the episode. Before we do, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you missed our webinar that we just did, that was on June 10th. I'm going to be running it again on June 24th at noon Pacific time. So you can sign up with the link. And that webinar is knowing if you are ready to start your interior design business. That's kind of some of the topic that we're talking about today. How do you know that you're ready to start your business? And how much is it going to cost you? So we get some good answers. We're not going to be talking about those answers here today on the podcast. So you're going to want to attend that live webinar. And then the bonus of attending a webinar with me, and I kind of do these before we launch Bootcamp, but you're going to have an opportunity to ask me questions at the very end. So if you have some burning questions you want to know about my design mentor, about Bootcamp, about the career, you can get in the webinar and have some space to ask me in person all your questions. So sign up for the webinar on the 24th, and I'd love to have you in there. Also, just so you know, that if you sign up now for My Design Mentor, or if you get into Bootcamp now, then you are locked in at the lower rate because we are going to be raising our rates come July 1st. For anyone who joins after July 1st, the cost is going up. We haven't done it in a while, so it's about time. And really, there's so much that you get out of My Design Mentor. First of all, if you join Bootcamp and you're ready to start your business, you go through Bootcamp in 8 weeks, all of July and August, and then by the fall, you're ready to start taking on clients. But then you also have membership to My Design Mentor throughout the rest of the year until the end of next June in 27. And so that is proven to be very helpful for those who have been going through Bootcamp because there might be one section or one part that you didn't quite get under wraps by the end of the 8 weeks. And so we can work on that together afterwards. Plus, there's so much information in my Design Mentor. We have all of those 12 learning modules, and I keep adding more and more content, bonus content. And you also have the ability to schedule Zoom calls with me to get some coaching once a month. So there's just so much in there. It's a great place to start your path for getting coached. And so I could just keep talking about that. But let's get into the episode and answer some of those questions you might be having. Okay, the first question that I get asked sometimes is if they can start their new career while still working for another place. Of course you can. I mean, it's totally understandable that not everybody has savings or the ability to just drop the job that they're working in and then fully pick up, not work for a while and start your business, where it is going to take a little bit of time before you can start making an income. Even if you're transitioning into the career and you want to work for someone else first, you have to develop some skills that's going to make you a little more marketable and accessible to an interior designer. Maybe the only caveat in this that I could say, if you wanted to just jump into interior design field and keep working someplace in the industry while you're starting your business, I often will recommend people get a job working for like a vendor showroom. So like tile or plumbing or any place like that, fabrics, wallpapers, anything that's going to give you some product knowledge as well is a great place to make some income while you're getting on your feet. That's something to consider, but you can definitely work on your business part-time while you are building it. And this is something that I did when I was starting out. I got my business license, but I was still working for other people. Because of that, I had to either work on the weekends or in the evenings, or when I went down to part-time, I could pick a couple days that I could meet with my own clients and then still be working for the other people. So if you have the luxury of not having to work while you build your business, then you're going to be able to really take advantage of something like boot camp, where you can just spend an intensive 8 weeks and then really get going. That would be ideal, of course, but not everybody's situation can handle that. So you can't expect full-time business results from part-time business effort. So keep that in mind, that if you're working part-time on your business, you're going to probably have some part-time income returns. That you're also going to need to learn how to block your time really well. Instead of having vague intentions, you have to be really intentional with each hour of the day and taking advantage of the time that you have, because you still need to sleep. We all know now that sleep is very important. You can't just skip it. And so you have to be so intentional with your schedule. And it might mean that you have to say no to some social events and things for a little while you're building it. But it doesn't mean that you have to be completely austere and not doing anything fun. I mean, you need to enrich yourself and renew your creativity, of course, but maybe 2 evenings a week and a weekend a month. You're dedicating to just starting out and it's not necessary that you're dabbling in the career of interior design. You're just taking a slower step into it because you're also trying to feed your family and yourself and go on vacation. If you can block out some time that is regular, that would be the most ideal thing. That if you're like every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'm working on my business, that is going to help you create some structure. And then as you transition into more full-time, then you can start to create different boundaries of whatever you want your week to look like. But it also teaches you and it teaches your clients that I'm only available on Tuesdays and Thursdays for me. Like currently, I kind of have a structure that way. I work from home on Mondays and Wednesdays, and so I don't meet with clients those days, and we only meet on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Occasionally, we'll make an exception, but that is pretty much how I've been doing it for several years now, and it's never been an issue. It's going to help you learn those boundaries are acceptable from the get-go, so that's not a bad thing. And then it really can take the time while you are making this intentional to focus on the right foundations for your business. So what are your services, pricing, process, client experience, marketing, and how to gain your confidence while you are building your business. Focused time builds a business, but the leftover time, when people are usually dabbling, it just keep you in dream mode. So this mindset shift is really going to set you apart from many are out there who just be like, maybe I'm good at this. Maybe I'll just dabble here. I'll dabble there. I won't charge this person. I won't, I'll just charge $100 for that. That's not your approach here. I know if you're listening to Design Curious, you are serious about your career, and we are going to go forward with intention. So we need to make sure your mindset around that is correct. And so the answer that is yes, you can work for another job part-time while you are building your business, and slowly over time, if they let you to scale back, maybe you go from 5 days to 4 days, then you can go back down to 3 or 2. And, eventually they'll be like, we need to replace your position, but by that time you should be well on your way. So no problems there. Another question that might come up is, can I start a business while I'm raising my kids? And the answer is yes, many, many people do this. One thing I love is that you are maybe showing, depending on how old your kids are, you're showing them that there's always a new chapter in life, that you can always start something new, that you're leading by example, that you are taking your career in your hands. You're not just accepting, like the older generations would be like, okay, you get your job, whether you like it or not, you're in there for 30 years and then you get your pension and retire and then you're done. Like there's no passion there. You don't just take what you're given, but by starting your business or a new career, you are taking your future in your hands and doing something that you think is worth investing, and that feeds your soul. And it's a risk, it's a challenge, but it's worth it, right? And that's what you're going to be showing your kids when you do this. The last boot camp we ran, every designer in there had kids, including myself. We all had to juggle around school, drop off, pick up. You have to be flexible, but it is very, very common to start a business when you're raising kids. And often that is the impetus for some people too, because they're like, I don't want to be stuck in a job that has an hour commute each way and I'm gone 10 hours a day and I don't ever see my kids. So there is flexibility often with owning your own business. And if you put boundaries in place and don't let it completely take over your life, then it can also be beneficial to your family. So you just need to have a bit of honesty about where you are in your current season. So if you do have a family and you're trying to build a business or a new career, then don't pretend that you have unlimited time. Your time is going to be limited. So it goes back to what we were just talking about before of being very intentional with your time. You're going to get tired of that word. Maybe you already are, but I love that word. Intentionality. It just means having a purpose to every moment that you have going forward and mapping it out. So if you want to move quickly, consider arranging for childcare or some consistent help with your kids so that you can focus on your business. Oftentimes during the school year, they're in school. So that's great. Of course, this boot camp is the summer one edition, so it will be July and August, and not everybody's kids are in school during that time. So there might be other arrangements you might need to consider. But having focused work blocks are incredibly valuable. So even maybe your kids are older in high school, you can just be like, hey, I'm going to be, don't bother me for 2 hours. I'm going to be working from 10 to noon, and then we'll all go out and do something. And you know what? You might have a slower start. You might be in a slower season for changing your career or your business, and that's okay. You don't have to embrace hustle culture necessarily. You can go slow. You can make it work for you. Whatever it is that drives you, that feels comfortable to you, and that is acceptable for the way you want to live your life and have your family time balanced in. This is the luxury that you have when you start your own business. So again, we're building foundations, we're learning, we're practicing, we're preparing, and also learning how to instill boundaries, right? Practicing boundaries. And so Just because you have the flexibility of working from home or having a flexible schedule doesn't mean that you're available to everyone all the time, right? You got to make time available to your family. Just like I work from home Mondays and Wednesdays, but I'm not working a full day because I like to pick up my kids on those days and do some other family time. So I make sure that my flexibility also works for me. So your business should be built around your season of life and not around pretending that you're in someone else's season. And again, this goes back to comparing yourself with others and, maybe staying off of the social media a little bit, except for just posting now and then to let people know that your business is up and running. But you don't want to fall into the trap of comparison because it's going to take the joy out of what you're doing. Because you'll start saying, well, I don't have that type of project. I don't have that many clients like that person does. I don't have a nanny like that person does. Don't pretend that you're in someone else's season. Just work with the season that you have in this life and build your business around that. And so how much time do you need when you're getting started? Well, it kind of depends on how fast you want to move. So starting a business takes time, mental energy, and it's probably going to happen to you that your brain might not shut off at night when you go to bed, either because you're so excited about the prospect of a new client or where your business is going, because sometimes that keeps me up. Like I'm all excited about a new business idea or some messaging change that I want to make, and sometimes I can't sleep at night because of that. That's very normal. And there's so many decisions, so many hats to wear as a business owner, or even as just an interior designer when you're shifting careers, that it might be hard for you to compartmentalize and to be fully present when it's not the time of day that you're supposed to be working. It's kind of like a byproduct of being an entrepreneur is that you are kind of working all the time in the background, in your brain, like you're always thinking of opportunities or ideas, and you're open to observing other people's businesses and reflecting on what works for them. So just to understand that that's kind of where you're going to be. And so whenever you do start heading that way, if you don't want to, if you're like, I actually need to sleep, so then you have to work on some things that will help you do that, setting boundaries and taking time to meditate and focus on some different things before you fall asleep. So, but ideally, I would plan for at least 10 hours of focused work per week would be probably the minimum investment if you want to take this seriously. If you don't have 10 hours and you just have 5, that's not a problem. You can build it really slowly. It's good for building that foundation, and eventually you can scale that up and make progress, and just have to be a little bit more patient with how far you're going to get if you're the less amount of hours that you invest in your business. But like if you're going to do boot camp, I'd say 10 to 15 hours really is going to keep you on track of being able to launch at the end of 8 weeks. You have more room for implementation, networking, setting up your systems. There's things that are going to take time because you're learning it as you go. And so you're going to need to invest some of that time. And then once you get some of these systems set up and in place in these first couple of months when you're establishing your business, then you don't have to spend time on that later. You can spend time on actually designing or doing client work. The speed of your progress kind of depends on the amount of time that you have available. But if you have a lot of time available, then great, just go for it. This is the opportunity, there's no time like the present. So my recommendation of how much time you might need when you're getting started in a new career or a new business, both of those, I'm kind of going back and forth between the two because not everybody wants to start a business, but some people might be shifting from one career to the next. Even that step, and maybe they're going to work for someone and then eventually start their business, but it has the same type of mindset shift that you need in order to take on this new chapter of your life. So they're pretty equal. Like if you're going to think about jumping into interior design and you're in some other industry, I would still dedicate 10 to 15 hours a week if you can, educating yourself, learning, taking a course online, things like that. So that's kind of what it takes to really make change in your life. And then the other question I get asked is how flexible can interior design be? as a career. We talked about being able to set your schedule and making sure that you are realistic in your expectations. So yeah, it can be flexible because there's so many different design opportunities that you can do. You can do e-design, you can do decorating, you can just do CAD drafting. Maybe you love space planning, you want to just work for someone else doing their CAD drawings, or you can be available on weekends if you want to be, or don't if you don't want to be. You can find a client that will work with whatever, that aligns with whatever structure you're putting in place. So yes, there's quite a bit of flexibility. The things that might not have or might have more structure to it are project timelines, maybe being available to, if you're doing any construction, remodel, new build, you need to be available to the contractors during the business days, and vendors and trade questions. Those are like typically done during business hours. So there is going to be some time during the week that you will need to be available during business hours. But if you can only make that be one day a week, then that's what you can do to start with. Making sure that you are being able to dream in your career too. So it's not just about, the rigid process and structure and all of that, but you want to make sure you're working in creativity, freedom, getting inspired, meeting with other designers. It's easy for designers to get siloed in their solopreneurship. If you run your own business, community is so important. I feel like the industry's shifted a lot more towards being open and sharing and supportive as an interior design community. So lean into that a little bit more. And then you can have a great career that is flexible and that is maybe part-time, but you still have to build it like a real business. Like you still have to have that professionalism and all of those things that are going to make you successful. And that's the whole point of all this is I want you to be successful in your career as an interior designer, not just have some experience, but have some successful experience. Back in episode 147, we talked about designing the career and life that you want with intention and approaching your career or your business like a client project. And the way that we would design a space comes naturally a lot of times to designers, where you create the vision and you can visualize the space in your head, and then you kind of see how you want different colors and forms and shapes and the way you'd move through the space. And then you're like, okay, where do I need to source those things? And then how do I put it all together? And how do, when it comes in and installs, and how does the client enjoy the space? So you need to approach your life basically the same way you would a project. So you wouldn't start a project without that plan, without the scope, timeline, vision in place. So do all of those things for your career. Have a plan, have a timeline set, have a vision of where you want to go. And that vision might change over time too, as you achieve different levels, or as the other parts of your life shift. You can shift also what your business or what your career looks like. Flexibility is not the absence of structure, it's the result of structure. So having structure in place and boundaries really allows you to be more flexible in your day-to-day life. And you're going to have so much more enjoyment out of it. So that is some of the topics that come up when people are asking me as they're approaching shifting a career. Like they'll ask these in My Design Mentor, or if someone is reaching out and being like, what it's really involved if I want to start my business and take boot camp, how focused, how flexible, what time. So those are some things that are covered there. But if you have other questions, feel free to reach out to me either through my email or on Instagram, and I am happy to answer any other questions you might have if I haven't addressed them already on the podcast. But just to think back about the things that you want to ask yourself before you start something new in interior design, whether that's a business or starting the new career, here are some things that you want to ask yourself. First of all, how many focused hours can you realistically give each week? And how are you going to protect those hours? And how quickly do you want to move? Is it slowly? Do you want to do it steady? Do you want to do it quickly? Are you gung-ho? What support do you need in that season? So are you going to have other people come alongside you to help you as you're going through this process? And also, are you ready to actually treat this like a real business if you're starting a business? Even if you're starting small, is this going to be not just a hobby career for you? That's what we're going to stay away from. I mean, there's people out there who do that, but that's not you. We want you to have a real successful business. And are you ready for that? So ask yourself if you're ready for what it takes, because it does take some level of risk. It does take some level of grit, and it might be challenging and it might be hard at times, but just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. You can do hard things. And that's what I tell people in my life all the time. Something that I learned and I tell myself all the time when I'm up against something I don't want to do or it feels hard, but I can still do it anyway. And small does not mean that you are casual business. Like, you can still have a small and mighty business. And just because you're new at interior design doesn't mean that you're unprofessional. You can still create an amazing design for your client just because you're new. And being part-time does not mean that you're not serious about your career. It just means that you're in a different stage of life right now. And part-time, you can be still fully committed. You just have a limited number of hours to give. So if any of this, it really intrigues you and you're like, okay, I'm ready to start. I can answer all of those questions appropriately and I have time and I want to start my business, then go ahead and sign up for boot camp. The doors are open right now. Links are going to be in the show notes, and it's going to answer all the questions that you're asking. Like, how do I set up my process? What services should I offer? How do I price? How do I set my website? Where do I get a contract? What are some professionals that I'm going to need, or software? We do all of that through there. It's very structured. It's very guided. All the things have been thought out for you. There's so much content, even having access to it for a year, you're going to keep coming back and using it and taking it and adapting it for your own. And so it's really just a one-stop shop for getting your business and your career off the ground. So yeah, I'd love to see you guys in there. It's time to stop circling your dream, start building the foundation of your business, and take control of your life and start designing something that you love. So as we just discovered, there is never going to be a perfect season to begin, but there is going to be a perfect time if you have taken the time to really plan, get your ducks in a row, and really have an honest look at if you're ready for this and ready to tackle kind of what it takes to start a new career and a new business. It takes a little bit of grit and some resiliency, but I know that you have that in spades, so you are my type of people. So go ahead and get signed up for the webinar, for boot camp, for My Design Mentor, whatever calls out to you. We also have a lot of free options for you. There's some guides, some downloads that you can find in the show notes and on the website. There's just so many resources for you that I have created because I don't want you to be lost. I want you to be able to design the life that you love. And so start where you are and start with what you have in the season that you're in, and let's build your next step intentionally. All right, that's all I have for you this week. Next week, we'll have another great episode. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.